Hi, I'm Jonathon Kappy.
And I'm Sayuri Kagami.
Welcome to Holland Estates. You're listening to episode number 563. Happy New Year, everybody. Today we will be discussing the Court of Appeal decision of Styres and Martin from November 29, 2018.
Yes, so this is a very recent decision. And it's a very short decision by the court. It's only about 5 pages long. And so just to do a brief overview of the facts, this revolves around a common law relationship and a transfer of a house to one of the spouses. So the appellant, who was the applicant in this matter, owned a house, and this was his only real major asset. And in 1998, he was in a catastrophic car accident, suffered severe injuries, including brain injuries, and at that time he was no longer able to work. So he owned a house that had been gifted to him by his father that he had lived in for many years. And after his accident in 2000, he began a relationship with the respondent. And in 2002, he appointed her as his attorney for property and personal care. And then in 2004, he transferred his home to her. They did the paperwork together. They didn't really involve any lawyers, so he had no independent legal advice. Neither of them did. In 2009, she granted a mortgage on this property to her mother in exchange for $200,000. And then in 2013, the parties separated. He demands the house back. She says no, and eventually she transfers it to her mother in satisfaction of this mortgage.
So there were a number of issues that got raised in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we have the reason for the transfer, and it sounds from what the court's reasonings is that in front of the trial judge, the whole thing focused on what was the reason for the transfer. He said that he transferred it to his common law spouse because he was worried about creditors, and that he wanted to get this house out of his name, and that really she was holding it in trust for him.
Yes.
She said that, no, you gifted it to me. I took good care of you, and the judge makes findings of fact. She was very good to him. She gave him money. She helped him out with things. She was his principal caregiver. And
he, in turn, gifted checks to her, money to her, provided child support. So they were in a loving relationship, it sounds like, and were in sort of a mutual, providing support to each other mutually.
Yeah. So ultimately, the court said, listen, I've considered both issues. You know what? This looks like a gift to me. You were, in a relationship that was, you were sharing money. She was looking after you. You were not vulnerable. I'm finding that this was a gift. There was no trust, and I'm finding in favor of the respondent. The house belongs to her. She was free to do with it what she wanted.
Yeah. And on the issue of trust, I think the judge also said, we're dealing with real property here. If you intended there to be a trust over this property when you provide it to her, then you need to have that in writing. Otherwise, the statute of fraud disallows you from bringing this type of claim now.
Right. So this went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal took a look at it, and the Court of Appeal at the end of the day said, you know what, we don't have enough information to hear this appeal.
Yes.
That in addition to the trust claims, which the trial judge dealt with, there were other claims of breach of fiduciary duty, breach of trust, unjust enrichment. And what the Court of Appeal looked at and said, so I understand what the trial judge says, but we've got a case of a disabled man with a catastrophic brain injury. He had admitted cognitive difficulties. He gave a power of attorney to his common law spouse. She was his principal caregiver. And they had no legal advice, let alone independent legal advice for this. Mm-hmm. So whether the issues of breach of fiduciary duty arise, breach of trust, unjust enrichment, all those things that would have led him to be susceptible to taking advantage of by a fiduciary, the judge gave no reasons on it.
Yeah. And I think basically the Court of Appeal said, yes, you were allowed to make this finding that there was an intention of a gift here, but that's just not the end of the story. You still have to look into all these other issues, which the trial judge just failed to do, sort of found the gift to be the end point.
Right. So the Court of Appeal said, I don't have enough reasons to do an appeal from that reasons, and the judge sent it back down the Court of Appeal sent it back down to trial.
Yeah. And one other interesting point that the Court of Appeal did make is, the statute of frauds is not the be-all and end-all here. To find that there's no trust, that doesn't apply to findings such as resulting trusts.
Right. Listen, and we can see recently from more sweet. I mean, the courts will use trusts as remedies to fix things, notwithstanding, the relationship, whether there was contract or other special relationships. So, notwithstanding that it affected a piece of real property, a constructive trust may have been available.
Yeah.
So, but interesting case. Unfortunately, we don't get all the details, so it's hard for us to take a look at what the court thought on the fiduciary duty issues.
Yeah.
But
we might see it come up again if this does go to trial
that's
again.
Right. But I think that concludes our podcast for today. Until next time, we want to thank you for listening. I'm Jonathon Kappy.
I'm Sayuri Kagami.
Should you have any questions, please email us at webmaster@hallandhall.com or leave us a comment on our blog.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.